at my own stupidity in putting a literal interpretation on a lady's little joke. "Violence in my sanitarium!" exclaimed the doctor, with his eyes once more fixed attentively to my face. "Violence in this enlightened 19th century! Was there ever anything so ridiculous? Do fasten your cloak before you go out, it is so cold and raw. Shall I escort you? Shall I send my servant? Ah, you are always independent, always, if I may say so, a host in yourself. May I call to morrow morning, and hear what you have settled with Mr. Bashwood?" I said yes, and got away from him at last. In a quarter of an hour more I was back at my lodgings, and was informed by the servant that the elderly gentleman was still waiting for me. I have not got the heart or the patience, I hardly know which, to waste many words on what passed between me and Bashwood. It was so easy, so degradingly easy, to pull the strings of the poor old puppet in any way I pleased. I met none of the difficulties which I should have been obliged to meet with in the case of a younger man, or of a man less infatuated with admiration for me. I left the allusions to Miss Milroy in Armadale's letter, which had naturally puzzled him, to be explained at a future time. I never even troubled myself to invent a plausible reason for wishing him to meet Armadale at the terminus, and to entrap him by a stratagem into the doctor's sanitarium. All that I found it necessary to do was to refer to what I had written to Mr. Bashwood on my arrival in London, and to what I had afterward said to him when he came to answer my letter personally at the hotel. "You know already," I said, "that my marriage has not been a happy one. Draw your own conclusions from that, and don't press me to tell you whether the news of Mr. Armadale's rescue from the sea is or is not the welcome news that it ought to be to his wife." That was enough to put his old withered face in a glow, and to set his withered old hopes growing again. I had only to add, "If you will do what I ask you to do, no matter how incomprehensible and how mysterious my request may seem to be, and if you will accept my assurances that you shall run no risk yourself, and that you shall receive the proper explanations at the proper time, you will have such a claim on my gratitude and my regard as no man living has ever had yet." I had only to say those words, and to point them by a look and a stolen pressure of his hand, and I had him at my feet, blindly eager to obey me. If he could have seen what I thought of myself, but that doesn't matter, he saw nothing. Hours had passed since I sent him away, pledged to secrecy, possessed of his instructions, and provided with his timetable, to the hotel near the terminus, at which he is to stay till Armadale appears on the railway platform. The excitement of the earlier part of the evening has all worn off, and the dull, numbed sensation has got me again. Are my energies wearing out, I wonder, just at the moment when I want them most, or some foreshadowing of disaster creeping over me which I don't yet understand? I might be in a humor to sit here for some time longer, thinking thoughts like these, and letting them find their way into words at their own will and pleasure, if my diary would only let me. But my idle pen has been busy enough to make its way to the end of the volume. I have reached the last morsel of space left on the last page, and whether I like it or not, I must close the book, this time for good and all, when I close it tonight. Good-bye, my old friend and companion of many a miserable day. Having nothing else to be fond of, I half suspect myself at having been unreasonably fond of you. What a fool I am! End of section 57. End of chapter 3, and the end of the 4th book. Read by Marianne Spiegel in Chicago, Illinois.